Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another book club episode on Stuck in the Middle podcast and collab with Palm Wine Central Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Uncle AK, and with me, my other fellow hostesses, if that's how they say it. English language today. Anyways, Mane, how you doing?
I'm here. I'm here. It's been a long day, but looking forward to the discussion.
Okay. And then the weekend too. Is it going to be a long weekend or a chill one?
Yes, a long weekend. Very long.
I shall. But don't worry. It will get better soon, hopefully.
Mm.
Nelly, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Looking forward to this book review.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. T, how you doing?
Yes, sir. Alive. I've been waiting for this one because I have bones to pick.
It's that deep, huh? It's gonna be like that. All right, no doubt. But anyways, follow us on all streaming and social platforms, and also click on that. Where is it at? Somewhere down here. Hit that subscribe button for weekly notifications on or monthly notifications on our book club. But I think there are other episodes that we put out there too as well that you can entertain yourself with. And we're on all social platforms at SITM Podcast and PWC Cast. Just like that. Follow us, leave a comment, subscribe, recommend books that you'd like for us to read or something that you think we're not doing right that we should incorporate here. Please let us know. And if you also want to participate in this book club review with us, let us know via social media, or if you know us individually, shoot us a text message or what have you, and then, get you on the team. But today, we deep dive Today, we dive deep into the pages of an inspiring story and the lives of. Wow, I really messed that up. Let me start again. In this book club, we deep dive into the pages and inspiring stories and lives of authors. Today, we are discussing Walking Through Fire, a memoir by Sheila Johnson that takes us through an incredible journey of love, loss, and ultimate triumph. In this episode, we'll explore how Sheila Johnson, renowned for her entrepreneurial spirit and philanthropic endeavors, unfold her narrative with raw honesty and resilience. Walking Through Fire isn't just a title. It reflects a path walked through the most challenging circumstances, leading to profound insight and personal growth.
Our goal today is to delve into Sheila's story, and emotional and inspiring, all the emotional and inspiring aspects, and to understand the universal lessons that we can all apply from her experiences. So whether we face personal trials, are interested in the dynamics of overcoming adversity, a love story that uplifts and inspires, this episode promises to offer a valuable reflection. So stay tuned as we break down the story's key themes, discuss its narrative impact, and challenge our perspective on what it truly means to triumph over adversity. So thanks for joining us, and let's get started.
Yeah, so first of all, let me just get you guys' thoughts on how the breed was. Did you enjoy it? Is it something that you expected? Did you not expect what unfolded in the book? Just a brief, your own personal insight to it before we jump into the questions that we have. So, Mane.
I would say based on the title, I did not expect the way the story unfolded wasn't something that I was expecting. Because I got the audio version, and I love books read by the author because you can connect to the different emotional roller coasters and all of that. And there were times when I had to pause the book. Like I had more time to listen without, this, whatever's going in this scene or in this phase of her life is too much for me to take. So yeah, there were a lot of pausings to kind of handle my own emotions before I could keep listening. But the end of the book, I give it up to her for being so what's the word? For being a fighter, I would say, because there were moments where I was like, you know what, forget this. I'm not pushing, this far for this for, people who cannot see what I'm trying to bring to the community. I actually had to Google, the whatever thing she ended up building, and it's a pretty great thing. And I was kind of curious about, how much it would cost to go there. I was like, okay, not today. But yeah, it was good to see, to look at the pictures and be like, wow, yeah, she really fought for something and then she brought it to light. So that was good. That was a good read.
Yeah. Nice, nice, nice. I know I said let's each talk about that, but I think it'd be better if, since Manny already gave that portion of it, if Nelly, maybe you can, discuss what part of the memoir was the most emotionally impactful for you.
For me, the affair, or well, the rampant affairs that Bob was having, and how in her face he was about it. A scene, but a part of the book that really sticks out to me is when they were getting ready to go to this party, and she was so excited about it. She had gotten dressed and got help for the kids and everything, and he told her that he's going to. Well, she thought he was not going to go to the party because he wasn't getting ready, and he goes, "I'm going to the party, but not just with you." He was going to take, I guess, Deborah Lee to the party. So it made me feel like, oh my goodness, how much can one woman take and put up with? You know, I definitely give it to her. Her strength is something else, is definitely commendable. And the fact that she fought through till the very end and was able to triumph over. Yeah.
Okay. All right. T, can you please give us a brief summary, of the book, being that, my name, from what Manny mentioned, and Nelly as well, but just a brief summary, for the folks watching and be like, but wait, you guys didn't even jump into the, summary, but if you can, please give us a brief summary.
Sure. I think the book obviously follows the life of Sheila Johnson from her childhood to her college days up until adulthood. Um, she's black, born into a black family. Dad was a medical doctor. Her mom was a stay-at-home mom. She had a brother. Unstable family, somewhat. Her dad walked out on them and remarried, and she never had a relationship with her dad. Got a scholarship, studied music, went ahead and built a business from her home, married her college sweetheart. 30 from the book, 30 of the most trying years that she could have endured as a woman. The marriage it was chaos, to say the least. They adopted 2 kids because they were unable to have biological kids. She and her husband built the business BET from ground up until, and then the husband cheated all through their marriage from day one up until they divorced. They ended up selling the business, and she moved on and she got her second chance back at love with someone from her past. Almost screwed that up, went to therapy, got her shit together, got married. That's a summary of it. But then in between, she had some fights, business wise, personal wise, that she had to deal with. So the books just, unveils all that to us.
Mhm. Okay. Thank you for that. So let's unpack it then. Um, from the beginning, she talks about, she describes her father leaving her mother, and how her mom had to deal with that. And then eventually, as she grew up, dealing with, her father not being there, had to go through all these obstacles, finally fall in love with, this man. I forget his name, something Johnson.
Bob.
Bob Johnson, there you go. Thank you. And then, eventually finishing college, getting married, and have to deal with everything. So I guess what I'm going with, Mane, how does she describe like lost triumph in this book? Like to you, does the title fit the narrative of the book?
Yes, she definitely did walk with fire. Especially the relationship part of her life. Wow. Like there were too many times when I wondered what would be the last straw for her.
Mm.
And in between that, I was trying to make sense of the time in which the time difference, the generational difference, is that the word? Because, our parents, they stayed in, despite whatever. But I guess our generation are we too quick to throw in the towel? But for me, the last straw was when I think there was an event when Bob, either he came in with Beverly or he went there with Beverly, like right in her face. To me, I felt like that was the last straw, but apparently that wasn't the last straw for her. But I mean, yeah, the walk through fire really does define her life. So the affair part and the part of trying to build the whatever she ended up building, I forgot the name.
Salamander. Mm.
Yes, that, all the she didn't give up. Like I was wondering when she was going to give up. So there was a part of her trying to prove a point to Bob that she could amount to something. But maybe because I personally don't really care about proving a point to anybody, but I don't know if that would be different if I had gone through what she went through. So it's one thing to say, oh, I would have thrown in the towel a long time ago. But then I guess each person's experience kind of tailor how they go through life. Like I say, life, what's the saying? That whatever you experience in childhood, you tend to either repeat it in adulthood or you become so self-aware that you don't want that to repeat itself again. But yeah, to answer the question, she did walk. She walked through fire, and I commend her for that.
Okay. You mentioned something about, what you go through in childhood, you might probably end up repeating that in adulthood. And we see that right within the story. So Nellie,
Mm.
being that her mom went through what she went through, right? And she
Yeah.
comes and gets married, and that particular scene where the husband leaves her in the hotel room on their wedding night,
Mm-hmm.
leaves and does not come back to the following day, right? What did that moment do for you when you read that book? Like in that moment, in that particular moment, what were the emotions running through you, right? Being that
Well,
she's already been through that and she knows she can walk away. So like,
yeah, that definitely would have been an annulment, especially given her childhood. Her dad left during her formative years, and she got to watch her mother break down due to that relationship ending to the point where her mother died. So you would think that, as she grows up, she'll have all this warning signs and red flags and things to watch out for. But no, she literally runs right into a relationship with someone who's like the replica of her dad. And they're all this, my God, it's not even red flags at this point. But the wedding night, him leaving on the wedding night, yeah, I think that would have been a huge turning point for her. If she had called it quits then. It's hard for me to understand what made her stay or her decision. And I don't know what point she was trying to prove by staying and seeing it through because she felt it all through the book. She talks about how she knew, deep down, she had her doubts about him, but somehow she still stayed. So I never really understood that part of it.
so from a woman's perspective, right? God forbid this ever happens to, matter, but from a woman's perspective, let's say, for example, you try to put yourself in her shoes. What is it that you have done different?
Well, the interesting thing is when I did pick up this book, it was during the time where my marriage was ending and I was leaving. So I was seeing bits and pieces of myself in her story. What would I have done if I was married to a man who left me on my wedding night? I would have called off the wedding and saved myself years and years of heartbreak and heartache. That's what I would have done. However, I don't know if she made that decision. I don't know if she would have been as successful as she became. I often wonder if, that's just the road that she had to take to get to where she is. Yeah.
Okay. T, let's unpack a little bit, her childhood, her childhood fiasco. Her dad leaves her mother and walks away without even looking back.
Mm.
And she manages to be sending her dad birthday gifts, which blew my mind. I'm like, bro, like, what are you trying to prove? You know what I mean? What are you really trying to prove? Eventually, that also transferred to her husband still, right? And the disrespect in itself, it just kept coming. And no matter what she did, no matter how she went about it, it just kept going and going. I mean, it just kept, up and up and up. So to
Yeah.
you, how did you feel when all of that, when you were reading that and, and in your mind, like what emotions were going through you as, especially that gift part, because that thing threw me off. I was like, Mom, there's no way. Like, there's just no way this woman just said this. So to you, how did that make you feel? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Funny enough, to me, I think that was the most emotional part of the book, right? Because I could completely relate. I went through the same thing. My dad walked out too, right? And I could literally understand what she was feeling as a little girl, because as a little girl, her dad should have been there to protect her, right? And he failed at that. And so she grew up not knowing protection. And so I feel like her her attempt to send gifts and reach out to her dad was a cry for help, right? A cry for love and the affection that she needed to be able to grow up into the woman that she wanted. And I think you start thinking in situations like that, like, if I be extra good and do the extra step, then they might pay attention.
Right.
And unfortunately, it took her that long to find out. I did the same thing too, right? I wasn't sending gifts, but I was trying to reach out. At some point, I had to say, this is not going to work. And I had to stop. I just cut ties completely. But, people are different. It took her years to figure out that it was not going to work. And so when you experience at a young age that you experience abandonment of that nature, it kind of distorts your sense of reasoning and relating to people. It's almost like you are compensating for what someone else does. And so I could completely see how she could go out and still be trying to give gifts and still trying to do all that. But yeah, that was just crazy though. Even as someone who's been through a similar experience, I still look at it, I hear the story of it, and I'm like, yeah, this shit is wild. This is this is this is really, really wild.
In terms of like the whole cheating thing, I don't. Well, let me speak from a marriage perspective. You know, what I mean, it was pretty interesting because I'm sitting here, I'm thinking to myself, like, how much disrespect can one person put on another person, and how much pain can you inflict on another person without even thinking twice about it, or are you even thinking about it? You know, but it also started all the way from college, and I felt as though she was picking hints of all these different things, but yet somehow, some way, um, she was finding ways to tell herself that it will get better. The part that really pissed me off the most really was when she said, I felt as though I could change him. I'm like, who thinks like that? Like, who tells themselves that, I can go in and change somebody, especially a man at that?
A
You know,
lot of
it's just, yeah, it it's one thing that's just practically damn near impossible. You can try and navigate somebody a man through righteous paths, but to say to change them, yeah, that's a whole different ball game that I just didn't understand. But for the readers, right, what is it that you guys think she was trying to um teach us, especially when it comes to love, triumph, and loss?
Teach us. She barely knew what she was doing herself. Talk about teach us. But
Because
I think her doing that. So, from what I gather from the book, right, I feel like on some level she blamed her mom for her dad leaving because her mom was a stay-at-home mom, and she was just like, maybe if her mom had a job, because her dad left her mom for a working woman. The dad's mistress, who he ended up marrying, was a nurse at the hospital he worked at because he was a medical doctor. So there were times and hints where she said she would look at her mom and be like, well, her mom just stayed home and baked and cooked and fed them. Like she didn't do nothing else. No wonder her dad would leave and would want to go to the nurse. So I think she carried that mentality in her relationship with Bob. And I think that's what sent her in overdrive, always constantly working, thinking that, okay, if I be the other woman, there won't be a need for another woman. I think that's what sent her, and she was just constantly trying to prove herself that she was enough. And that just snowballed to 30 plus years of just her wasting her life away for a man who did not notice her. Oh, I shouldn't say didn't notice her. He gave her just enough hope to keep her on the hook, which was the craziest part. Like he knew just how to, yes, like I'll give you just this little bit. When as soon as she starts coming to her senses, he shows a little bit of what's this called? Kindness, empathy, or something, and she gets hooked again, and he goes on. And so I just think that she was trying so hard to be the other woman, but yeah, that backfired because all she had was to be herself. Because she was a phenomenal woman.
Yeah, the trailblazer and that. She got fired from BET. That other part, like, I'm like, bruv, like
oh Lord
a one
Jesus.
person take over people.
Listen, from the
Fire
very
from her own company. Like how did that make happen?
yeah,
Yeah.
Nelly and Manny, did you guys have anything else to add that you think, throughout, the book, she talks about, how loss triumph, like just yeah, adversity, like what is it that she probably trying to teach us, the readers, some about her, her journey or the message she's trying to put forth for us, the takeaway, I guess.
Yeah, I think she touched on this, like she felt like she had something to prove. In her childhood, it looked like a lot of that was because, she was trying to please her dad. If she could be the best violinist, then maybe he'll come back. Maybe he'll pay attention. He bought her the violin and she took that and she ran with it and she became the best at what she did. In her adulthood, like in her later years, I think that her work ethic, she thought if she could jumpstart BET, then maybe Bob will find some kind of value, for her. And even after the divorce, when she had become successful and she moved to this new town, I can't remember what the name of the town is, with all the racist people, she bought businesses just so that way she can transform them or get rid of the Confederacy and all of the people who believed in that stuff. But she had always had this need to prove. But in her older years, it became easier because she had the money to do it. So I think without the money, she would have still been the same person who was seeking this approval from people all through her life.
Mm.
Add to that, I think that like when her mother got sick and she could not afford the ambulance fee, I think part of her work ethic was so that she could always have money, because I think somewhere in the book she mentioned a fear of not being able to afford something. So at some point, I think she had about 3 jobs. And even though her work drive was also tied to that, particular incident of her mother being on the floor in the kitchen, it was also, trying to prove a point, or maybe if she did all of these things, even though she couldn't get her dad back, she could keep her husband.
Mm.
But there's no point in trying to keep someone who doesn't want to be kept.
If you guys can share, right, any of you, a point in time when, just like Sheila, selling her, is it a viola?
Really? Uh-huh.
The $25 one, just to put in the business, right? Have you guys ever had to go through a similar situation as that? And what was the outcome of it? Just in relation to the book.
I've never had to do that for anybody else.
Right, I was gonna say I don't have no 25,000 violation. But I mean, in the perspective of sacrificing,
Mhm.
shoot, I don't think that I've had anything material that has been worth giving up for something. But I suppose I would say, I don't know, maybe through college trying to pay for school, I guess. At some point I was in school, shoot, I'd say all through my master's program. I was in school full-time hours. I was doing 40 credit hours. Is it 40? No, I said 40. Jesus Christ. I was doing 12 credit hours a semester, full-time work, and I was working 3 jobs. There were a number of times that I could have offed myself because I fell asleep behind the wheel.
Oh my
I
God.
was working nonstop. So I can understand having to sacrifice in that sense where you want some. I literally was going home just to shower and change. So it was that bad because, well, I had to pay for school somehow, so I can understand wanting something so bad that you want to succeed at that you have to sacrifice something for yourself that you will consider as comfort or something that is home, I suppose. So it's never an easy trade. It's never an easy trade, but I guess if you are if you are focused on having this thing complete, then I wouldn't say it gives you the strength to muzzle through because that would be a lie, but you just shut up, close your eyes, and you just
To go.
muzzle on through. Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, then in that case, I can imagine um, how much should have wanted to hold on to every piece of it and how much should have wanted to be involved in all the decisions and all of that had to be made regarding BET because she gave basically her most valuable possession, to jumpstart the company.
she
So,
did. And I think it wasn't just about the monetary value, right? That represented the last time her family was
yeah.
whole. So she that had a whole lot of sentimental value to her. When she said she was selling this, I was like, for this
Yeah, I
ass
felt it.
for this
For this
asshole,
Yeah,
I mean,
man, oh
like,
my God.
I was like,
for
take
him.
more loans, find a bank, sell something, sell his clothes, but not the violin, please. But hey,
Yeah.
And it's to me, it's just, I understand they needed the money, but to me, it's just funny how it's just Bob really didn't care. It's just funny how he let her sell it and didn't even put up a fight.
yeah,
And he was just like, okay, cool. I'm like, what are you selling? All I hear is her bringing in the money. Like, sir, where's your investment? But
It was crazy how he had all these dreams, but he was banking them on her. Like he had
Mhm.
his own dreams, but they were,
She was the dream builder.
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, pretty much. There's also the part in the book where I think after she said she was, fed up with everything done, and she goes to that town, and she got an accident. Then later on, slid again and fell. I was reading that part. I'm like, is this woman okay in her head?
No, she was not. She was
Like,
not okay in her head.
There's this thing about emotional trauma representing physically. And when all of that was happening,
Yeah,
that's what was coming to mind.
yeah.
Because if you don't handle emotional trauma, it will show up physically.
Yeah.
it's interesting. That's interesting. But then she later on, when Bob, the nerves on Bob to be doing all the shenanigans that he's doing, and then there's this man that comes and just, and he like told him never to show up again in the woman's life and things like that, even though he knows that he was not treating the woman. Um, yeah, that was crazy. But what do you guys think about that whole part of the book, leading all the way to when she went to court for the divorce and realized that it was that guy, who was a judge in their divorce um, case?
I mean, it was quite serendipitous, right? To
Mm.
think that someone that she had felt something for, no matter how slight it was way back when, you know, presents himself now in her future just at the right time. You know, the book had all these little pockets that made you really have hope um, on whatever situation that you're going through. And I think that was one of them. To have met this guy at a time when she was a young girl, just making it through life, and for him to come around, at the end of it, where she has gone through this heartbreaking situation and now she has to heal. And then he waits patiently on her through her healing process. I really felt like she was so deserving of him. He was like the perfect guy. And of course, Bob sensed that from the moment he met him. So he knew.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think he did a good job at isolating her from pretty much. I think he knew what the mission was from the beginning. Right. He was like, this is my ticket and my way out, and I could write this. And so, because if you meet a great person, you can tell right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
And I think he saw that in her, and he just rode that horse to the bank, all the way. And he did a good job at isolating her from everyone that cared about her, that could have talked some sense to her. He did a good job at that. That even as bad as her wedding night, he didn't stay. She couldn't even call nobody because to tell them what. She said she knew exactly what they would say, leave. And she didn't want to do that. So she didn't tell anybody what she was going through because she didn't want them to tell her to leave. So Bob
Yeah.
took advantage of that. The one guy, he probably was like, this guy will come and show her how nice people should be treated, and this will make her start rethinking. So he's like, I need to nip this in
Get
the
rid of
bud
him.
real quick. And when she saw the guy at the court, I was like, please tell me they end up together, because
Yeah.
it was just amazing to see that they actually did. And he was the complete opposite of her dad and of Bob. And she didn't even know what to do with the guy and almost ruined it,
Yeah.
so that I'm glad she got the ending that she deserved. She
Oh, man, can you elaborate a little bit still on, from the perspective of, what's my question? Like when she meets the judge, right? And then eventually starts, their courtship and everything. And the patience in itself. Um, can you speak a little bit about from just patience and knowing what you want, right? From that perspective, how that could have backfired if the man was not really patient enough, or if her herself did not realize that, hey, what had happened a long time ago can repeat itself here, in a sense that if she does not take advantage of this moment, she might really lose that one person that really, really loved her.
First of all, I would commend, what's his name, the lawyer guy, for his patience, because wow, for him to have even to feel, for him to set his boundaries, Because the thing about boundaries is sometimes it may sound like you're putting people out, but it's really for the benefit of both. Because there was a time we were taking a walk, and I think he has knee issues, and he was walking a little bit slower. And then the way she spoke to him, he didn't like it, and he addressed it in a way that it wasn't so much putting her down, but it was more like bringing her awareness to the fact that whatever she's feeling, it's not really towards him, but it's almost like a fear of, probably whatever she experienced before could happen again. So for him to point that out and to make her understand that they will not move forward unless she took care of that part of her, and to actually wait for her to go through the healing and all of that is, I don't want to compare it to today, but it just had me wondering, like, because there's this debate of, oh, women are putting in the work to heal and get better and men are not. And the way that healing presents itself for women is not the same way that it presents for men. But then there is this constant debate of, are men even willing to do the work? Are men, or our generation of men even willing to do the work? Or are they patient enough to do the work? So, but then while listening to the book, I had to remind myself that, it's two different generations. But I think that our generation, more of us, should read the book, especially the end, not the beginning, because for us women, it's not, how can I say? The beginning of the book is like an eye opener, like, what you should look for, what you shouldn't do, or what. But I love how the book unfolded to the point where even when it was so nice, I kept wondering if that part of the book was a real life story. And I was like, this is a line in the movie, all these film tricks and fiction and all whatnot. But yeah, it's and how she became more self-aware, trying to connect why she did what she did based on what she went through as a kid. Because sometimes in order for us as adults to understand why we do what we do, almost always it connects to something we experienced in childhood. And if we cannot go back and figure out what that is and how we can heal from it, then we're just going to go through life blaming everybody else. Because even though she could pick out the things that Bob did or didn't do, she at least could pick out for herself why she did what she did. And that helped her in her healing. Because if she spent the rest of her life, blaming Bob, she made the choice to be with him.
Yeah, at the end of the day.
Yeah, she made the choice to be with him. So if she had handled her childhood traumas, maybe she would not have been with him. But then, as Nelly pointed out, maybe that's the path she needed to follow in order to become as successful as she did. So it's like you cannot take out a part of her life and expect it to end up the same way.
Right.
Yeah. There's no way you would know that.
Yeah. And to add to that, other than patience, I think I want to commend her new husband. And why can we not think of his name? What was his name? I want to commend him for, I think he had a high level of emotional intelligence and maturity. And I don't think he was age related because Bob was kind of in the same age range. But yeah, I think that was a key factor that combined with his patience really helped facilitate her healing journey to get them to the point where they could be together. Yeah.
William, I think that's his name.
William
Newman. Yeah.
Bill. Okay, so it's William. Yeah.
Bill.
Bill.
Sorry, Bill.
few instances in the book that were a little bit like, what the heck is going on here? One, where he, what's his name, Bob, undermined all these other top executives and elevated, what was the woman's name?
Deborah.
Yeah, her. You know, I used to hear Deborah every time I was watching BET, and then I read the book. I don't know, for some reason my spirit just automatically hated Deborah. I'm like, yo,
No, she had a book. She had a book that came out. I don't remember if it was before Sheila's book, but she had a book because there was this whole thing came out during the Me Too movement. Deborah came out talking about, oh, this is what had happened to her with Bob. And I'm like, who is this Deborah chick? And then here comes this book telling us who Deborah is. So,
oh damn, now I
I
gotta
don't know.
Uh-oh.
see.
Yeah.
And then the part where Bob is jealous in front of Bob, Sheila is there, Bob is there, Deborah is there, and Deborah's husband. And
Yes,
that
that
is like holding this man's. I'm like, what is going on right now?
sounds like a High School Musical thing.
You know what I mean? Like,
Like,
would you guys entertain such things?
I don't know. I don't know that I would.
Oh, Lord God Almighty.
Was that the point where she went home early?
I
Well,
think,
at some point she went home.
yeah.
And I think
Yeah, I think that was the
last
that was
for her.
And shortly after, Deborah's husband filed for divorce, I think. Oh my God.
yep. Shoot. I
can't.
I think I can see her accepting that, right? Because she had allowed so much already. So that was just like one more thing on top of everything else. But that it was just his audacity. Like, it's one thing to abuse someone emotionally behind closed doors. He did not care anymore. He did it at the White House in front of the president.
Yeah.
He did it at every event, in front of his co-workers, in front of the office. Like, he was like she was a hired servant.
Yeah, he reduced her. That's what
Yes. So I'm just like, why? Why? I keep saying why? Why every time?
That's a
That
definition.
man's yeah. That man's audacity should be studied. I
Yeah.
need some of that.
And then fast forward in the book where she talks about acquiring the Washington Wizards and I think the Capitals, I believe, and then opening her resort, and the dude shows up there and still trying to,
Bring her down.
you know what I mean? In my mind, I'm like, wait, first of all, why did you even let
Why
him
you-
be here?
I don't know why he was there either.
I don't know.
Even the point where she called him to let him know about something she was planning to buy.
Buying a sports team.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
basketball
I was
team.
like, why do you care that he knows? Just let him find out.
Right.
I think she did that out of spite because she knows that was one long-term goal of his, to acquire the sports team. And so when he was up, even though they advised her that it's not a very good business decision, just the fact that it was something Bob wanted and she went ahead and got it anyways.
Yeah.
But the way
And
that
then-
she justified it, though, to me, it sounded like she was more trying to rub it in his face.
That's
More
exactly
like-
what.
Yeah, and also trying to prove a point, like you couldn't do this and I did it, kind of.
Yep, exactly that. Like, see, and I did it and I wasn't even with you
Yeah.
on my own. And he was mad about it. I'm like, for all the dreams you took from this woman, you really gonna be mad about this? But I guess narcissists are.
They're special breed.
They are.
Yeah, I think the whole for me, that whole aspect of it was more of how things come full circle sometimes, right? Because like he really went out of his way to shut down most of her dreams, and it all started again from when she sold that $25 piece of equipment that he himself could have said, "Hey, you know what?
25,000, please, not $25.
5,000." He himself could have seen the not benefits, but the importance of that equipment to her, right? And he just did not. He just when she brought her own segment on BET and it was doing good, he did everything in his powers to shut that down.
Yeah.
So I felt as though this one came full circle, and it was just something that he could not really take, but he had to come see to for himself. Like, hey, you know,
Did she really do this? Yeah.
right? So for me, it was a divine moment in the book where I felt as though for those who go through struggles like that or similar struggles or just struggles in life, you know, what I mean, it's just a reminder that sometimes or most times things come full circle. Like you might be looking at it like, hey, I'm struggling here, or this happened to me and that and the third, but somehow, some way, you know, they say what goes up comes down. For some people, what goes up just keep going like a rocket and never come back. Anyway,
Well,
and-
until they learn, right? Until you learn the lessons,
Right.
you know,
right.
until you learn the lessons.
What else was an emotional, turn point in the book for you guys?
Ooh, I will talk about
You
her
know,
journey of
Sheila?
trying to get pregnant.
Yes, that.
Oh my
When
God.
she lost a child, I was like, okay, can this book just end? Like, how bad can it get?
That,
How bad can it get? Yeah.
oh my goodness. Yeah. She still couldn't. I mean, I think she said, even in the book, she said that was the one time she saw a sliver of affection from her husband. And that only lasted as long as
the pregnancy. Yeah.
I'm glad that she was able to adopt her 2 kids. Because I think that she needed companionship that her husband was not
Gonna feel.
willing to provide. So her kids came and gave her that. So I was happy that she at least got that companionship with family in that sense. But that whole journey of her trying to get pregnant and everything was
she definitely went through it. Like, how much could one person take, you know? Yeah.
But on the other side too, she's going through all of this with a boatload of money in her pocket.
True.
Let's talk about that.
This is better to come
Because yes, you are right, man. Because to me, I mean, she did go through hell and back, right? Hell and high water. But in my biased opinion, let me start there first and foremost. In my biased opinion, going back even right to like the title of the book, I think it could have been titled differently, just because when I read it, I was like, walk through fire. I was expecting life to have handed her ass, right? But the 30 years she endured was of her own making. Now, not ignoring her traumas that led to all that, but I was like, at some point you could have just walked away. So I was expecting more of a life story of where things happened to you and you had no control over. Or like life was beating you, like your mama died, your daddy them died, some that was. But it's like, how you, even though she went through all that, she came and met a mentor who fought for her and gave her a full ride scholarship to school.
Yeah.
Went to school, and all the people that she was dating, left the one person and then managed to cling to Bob, which just was beyond me. And then because right from the beginning he was stealing from her while they were in college, giving it to other girls, and she found out and she still chose him. And I'm just like, then found out she got married and did all these things, and she knew in her heart of hearts that it wasn't right, but she still stayed. And I'm like, oh my God, choose not to tell anybody. So, but to me, the whole thing, it was just, I mean, I get you went through fire, but kind of, your hand did it, like they say in Pidgin. You kind of, you kind of cussed it a little bit, but still, it doesn't take away from everything that she experienced. But I was expecting a more like, shoot, like what's this book? Educated type story, like life. Like I have no control, but she could have walked away. She could have, I don't know. There's so many things she could have done to change this book, but it didn't happen.
There was a point where the first time she thought of leaving, but her fear was Bob robbing her of money. So she had to make sure that, you know, she was secure financially or she'll be able to get some things, which I kind of get because she invested not only the time which she can never get back, but financially she invested. And I guess it was only right to, put things in place to make sure that she would not be left high and dry. But there were too many opportunities to be like, forget this. But then again, see, only those who wear the shoe, only he who wears the shoe know what it hurts.
Yeah, I think that we're forgetting that a lot of her decisions stemmed from her childhood trauma that was never addressed. So she was not aware that she was incapable of making the correct choice. You know what I mean? So I don't really think that that was her fault. You know, like she just didn't know. She didn't know any better because of a trauma. This just trauma bonding with them the whole time, and all the decisions were based off of that. Now, I don't know if there was someone in her life who would have offered her some kind of therapy earlier on. We don't know. We don't know if that was available to her. If that had intercepted her life at some point, maybe the path would have been different, especially with Bob in the picture. So I don't blame her fully, but yeah.
And it's interesting that you would say that, right, Nelly, because that, how do I put this? My initial thoughts, right? I would have never, before I even started going to therapy, I would have never considered that what happened to her childhood as trauma. I just thought life. And
Right.
so when I went to therapy and she's like, oh yeah, those are childhood traumas. I burst out laughing. I was like, girl, did nobody do like, I was like,
Right.
no. She's like, oh yeah. She's like, what do you think trauma is? I was like, not that.
Yeah.
She was like, yeah. She's like,
Yeah.
trauma doesn't always have to be physical.
Mhm.
It doesn't always have to be towards you. It can be something that was done at you or something that affect. And I was like, well, I'm 30 some plus years and I just found out what trauma is.
Right.
And
Now
so,
imagine if someone had, interrupted that, then
right,
your decisions would have been a little bit different if you could have a say,
absolutely.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes we go through things and don't even know that it's traumatic and
Yeah.
it's affecting us and we just like, and we take it normal. Like, to me,
Yeah.
I just knew it was life. And I'm looking and you've realized how much those things that you are just looking at life, how deep they run in you, in
Yeah.
your everyday decisions and how you look at things, your perspectives. And you're like, oh well, I need help.
Yeah. I often wonder what we're all going to be if we do not have, if we had those glasses taken off, right? I wonder what our perspectives of life will be, of humans in general, how we're going to relate to each other if we were all, aware of our perspectives stemming from our childhood traumas. Mm.
Mm. Do you
Right.
think that too much awareness can be a problem too?
It depends on you on how you approach it.
I don't think so. Not if you are not the right way. I don't think there can be a wrong kind of awareness. If it's wrong, then it definitely is not awareness.
It's not awareness.
Yeah.
Yeah. The reason why I say that, I ask that is because I don't know, some things like that, well, I've gone through, somebody might look at it as trauma, right? But I think of it as life experiences. Like it has molded me to be what I am now. And I feel as though if somebody had tried to change that, it would have kind of offset my trajectory in life, and how, I push through things, right? How I face adversities and things like that. I don't know. Hopefully,
No, you I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, I think that what
If
you're describing, which we now term as character development, can be easily misconstrued as trauma. Not everything is. I
right,
think that life does throw curveballs so that way we can develop certain skills and certain traits. But I definitely think that there's real life trauma that totally shapes the way that you move on in life. And if that's not dealt with, your decisions and your interactions and your reactions with everyone is kind of affected by that, and you're totally unaware, and you just think, oh, that's just how I am. A lot of people say, oh, that's just how I am. It's not. Yeah.
yeah, that right there is a trauma response. It's the word I
Mhm.
learned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
okay.
it might have shaped you, right? And taught you maybe resilience or something else, but um that's the whole reason why if a house burns down, they have to come and rebuild and paint. They can do all that, but it's still gonna smell like smoke. So that's exactly what trauma is. Is those residual things from our childhood that stay on us and we don't even know it. And you're just like, why does it smell like smoke? But everything looks fine.
Unless I put air freshener in every room, and
That would you would only mask it, right? And then at some point the air freshener and the smoke mix it. Now you are an explosive mess.
true, 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 true. But I was curious what you guys' take to this is. As I say, what an older person can see sitting down, a younger person cannot see, the highest ladder, right? Reference to the book, a lot of people, and especially the older ladies in her world, kept telling her, "Hey, you are going down the wrong path here. Hey, you need to end this right now. Hey, this and that." All the pieces of advice that she got, she just kept going. Right? It did not change anything. She just kept going, kept going, kept going. Um, I was just curious if you guys, thought about those advice that she was getting, but yet not following them, and how it ties to the whole trauma thing. Like, um, is it because of that she would not resonate with the advices that she was getting, or
Yeah.
was it just strong head?
No, I think it's definitely related to her childhood trauma because all these other people are giving her this advice from their perspective and their point of view. She can't accept it because she's looking at her life from her traumatic childhood point of view with being left and being abandoned. So every decision that she makes, she has to make sure that the end result is not her being left. So no matter what people are telling her, oh, you need to leave him, he's not a great guy. But she's like, well, at least I got a man. You know, he hasn't left me, right? So then she stays. It doesn't matter what you tell her.
Hmm. See, this is why I am a strong believer of sharing your story, right? Because when you share a story behind an advice, it carries more weight. Because then I'm looking at you like, well, you're not going through what I got to deal with at home. Your advice doesn't apply. And so if you're going to give someone guidance, I think it's best if you can attach a story to it. Like people are not very open to share, but they want to give you advice. Like I'm not just going to take your word for it. I need to know that you have been in my shoes to be able to know that your word carry. I'm not just going to trust it because you said it. I mean, it sounds good and all, but how do I how do I go back to someone who's in my face telling me every day I'm not enough? How does that apply? Now, if you share your story and say, hey, this is what, and you'll be like, oh, I can see it possible. It's like what they say about representation for Black girls, right? If you can't see someone's story and see them overcome, you are likely not to think that's possible for you, right? And so to me, the other thing too that I learned recently is what they call it, knowledge. I guess I can say knowledge comes through what's this thing they say? experience is the best teacher. And it was rephrased to say experience an is an effective teacher. It's not the best teacher. The best teacher is instruction, right? Because what experience will take away from you is time that you would never get back.
Yeah.
If you have to go and see for yourself, you will see, but it will cost you time that you can never get back, right? And so that learning also at the end of the day, learning costs. There are the two costs of learning. There's time and resources, and you can only get one of them back. And resources will come through instruction, guidance, and advice from people. Experience will come through your hard-headedness and that. So if you don't hit to advice, you're going to lose time and resources. And now you're in deep shit. And sometimes it's not always easy to just take advice, right? But I think if we're more forthcoming with sharing our stories to people and let somebody know, you know what, that divorce was hard. I was crawling on the floor for 4 months, but I got back up. As opposed to say, girl, you're gonna get over it. That doesn't help a person because they know that I'm gonna go back home and crawl on the ground.
Yeah.
So if I think that that would have helped her more if people were more open with actually their stories attached to advice, that would have helped her more as opposed to just.
Now, but on that note, so do you think that if her mom was more forthcoming with what that divorce really did to her, do you think that that would have changed things for her?
I think so, yes, because what she got out of her parents splitting was just seeing her mom
As a child.
broken. You know, her mom never talked about it. Her mom just didn't, but she would fall on the kitchen floor and cry, and all she heard was sadness. But I feel like if her mom was a little bit forthcoming with issues, maybe she was too young then.
Yeah.
But as an adult, I think that I know that parents like for us to see them as strong. You know, I look up to you, but I think they do us a lot of disservice when they're not honest about how this thing really hurt or how this thing went through. Because then you make up your own conclusions in your head.
Yeah.
And it's not right. So I think maybe that could have helped her. Or at the least, had her even call her mom when she was going through all the things that she was going through.
Right.
But
And
yes, but all she was thinking was, I don't want her to see me the way I saw her.
Isn't that self-infliction then, like she's inflicting pain on her own self? But hold on to that though real quick. You said something about association by examples, right? Is it not the same mentality that most people would say, I came to you and I'm trying to open up. I don't want to hear your story. Don't tell me no story. I'm here, I'm trying to air out whatever it is that's paining me. Don't tell me no story. Isn't that like
No, not really. And I also think that emotional intelligence come into play, right? You should know when you should talk. If someone's coming to vent, that's not the time to top their story with yours. It really ain't. It's your time to shut up and listen. And then when they're done, there are clues you can pick up to say maybe now's the time. Or you can just wait, and it's not gonna cost you anything to call them tomorrow and do that. You don't have to do that right away. And so I feel like sometimes when you call people, they want to top up your story. Like, no, then I'd had to tell a friend one time, it's like, this call ain't about you. Call me tomorrow and we can talk about you. This right here, no. So sometimes unconsciously, people want to top your story, but that's not the time. Wait when they're more receptive. Because when someone's venting, I don't want to hear advice. I don't.
And
So
I don't know. I don't know if it's really like they want to top the story. I feel like sometimes, especially when it's a close friend or a loved one, they're so quick to want to tell you that, oh, this happened to me too. And I was okay. So you're going to be okay.
yeah,
But
that's what I meant by topping the story.
but like find balance on when to do that. Yeah. It's the problem.
speak about empathy, right? And that relates to that too in the same sense. I don't know. Mania sent me a YouTube link which I listened, and the guy defined empathy in a whole different way, which it made a lot of sense to me because that's how I view it. Really, it's like very different from how everybody sees empathy. And to what you're saying, sometimes it's like I'm sitting here and I'm watching. Let's say, for example, you. I'm sitting here and watching you go about your day, your week, your month. That day when you have that issue and you are saying all of that, me, I'm just laughing because I've already seen how you arrived at this place where you're at. And I'm just saying, yo, but how can you not see what transpired to this point? And in that same sense, going, I mean, I might not necessarily have dealt with the same thing, but I was already front row seat seeing how you were making those decisions and going. So I'm like, yo, but this is where you kind of falter. This is where you stumble. This is where, X, Y, and Z. Not to say, hey, you need to change anything. It's just pointing that maybe you're looking at it from a wrong angle.
I mean, of course you will, right? Because you're in the passenger seat. The best driver is in the passenger seat. Is not the one behind the wheel. Because
Not necessarily, because some of them fall asleep.
true, but the analogy is like if you're driving, you only have so much to focus on, right? But the passenger has a 360 view. It's almost like an out of body experience. You can say, oh, shoot, we passed a 7-Eleven, and you're like, where? Because you're focused on driving. So it's easier sometimes for someone else to actually look through your month and say, okay, here, and here is where you went wrong, as opposed to you. Because especially if you got tunnel vision on what you're working on, it's very easy. We all can spot these things in people easy. That's not a problem. It's finding them in yourself. That's where the problem is.
Yeah.
That's why even if you got to do all that, comb your hair, you need a mirror.
And that's also why I also believe I'm a strong believer in just because you're going through something does not mean that like you have to come and then decide to shut everything down. Like things happen, things happen. Even when you're venting, you should also give yourself grace. Give yourself grace, give yourself breathing room to take a pause and hear yourself think or hear somebody else digest your thoughts for you and not necessarily be pissed off in that moment and think that, oh yes, it's about you, but still it takes two to tango, and in that moment it's two people right then and there. You know what I mean? I feel as though sometimes we take it out of proportion and make it seem as though, oh, I'm just supposed to come and say X, Y, and Z for 3 hours and then walk away. Me, I'll look at my watch like it's getting to the 3 hour mark and I cannot say anything, like nothing at all. I can even say, yo, you've repeated yourself 4 times now. Like, you know what I mean? But that's just me though. I mean, I don't know about other people, but that's just me. I feel as though if somebody's venting, they themselves too should also be able to understand that. I also have time to say because I'm not a brick wall. I'm not a stick. And if I'm looking at my watch and I'm going, okay, you have passed your marker of this venting, best believe I'm gonna say something.
I think that using yeah,
Guy.
because how do I say this? There is a way to tell if somebody is venting because they want to be heard versus if they're venting because they want to know what you think. Because if they want to know what you think, there will be gaps, spaces of silence when they're saying whatever they're saying. But if they're just going on and on, I don't know about venting for 3 hours now, but there is a kind of body language you can tell if this person is just venting but don't want to get it off their chest, or if they want to know what you think. And if they don't want to know what you think, they will not ask. So you volunteering what you think is kind of pointless. And adding to the analogy of what you said, T, about the best driver is in the passenger seat. That's what I had to keep telling myself when listening to the audiobook, because the times when I was like, when is this going to be over for you? Like, what's going to be the last straw for you? So I had to take a step back and say, well, I'm able to say this because I am looking from the outside, right? I did not have her childhood trauma experience. So she's telling the story the way that she felt when she was going through it.
Yeah.
But then there were moments when she said that, she could have done otherwise. So yeah, it's hard to listen to somebody's story and not be like, wow, you should have done X, Y, Z. But if you're the one wearing the shoe in that moment, you don't know if you would have been able to do it that way, because maybe your own childhood traumas will make you respond or react differently. So it's like I said, everybody's story is a learning experience. So you either learn from somebody else's experience or you learn from your own experience. So.
I don't know. I just can't help myself. But as I was reading that book, I could feel the pain in it. But on the other side, there was money, a whole lot of money on the table. So that pain went away quick.
Rich people's problems.
So it's like these rich people's problems right here, because I don't know, because I don't know. But at the end of the day, you are divorcing with tons of millions in your pocket, so you'll be fine. You can fly and go to Paris, and see a therapist there, and decide to switch and go to Australia in the same day and see another therapist, and come back to America and see a therapist, and you'll be fine. So different struggles, different circumstances.
And that's why I think I had a hard time over relating to her story, because I'm like, woman, you're a billionaire. Like, I mean, you just buy a building because you didn't like the Confederate flag on it. Girl, I can't even buy my car out.
But I think that it goes to show that all the money in the world cannot buy you happiness, though, because you have all these rich people committing suicide. So for me, I could not see. I mean, I guess the emotional pain could have been worse if she did not have money. But then again, having the money did not change the fact that she was going through what she was going through emotionally, because physically buying all of these things or doing all what she could do with money was just a band-aid on whatever was, brewing underneath. Did it help? Maybe. But she still had to do the therapy work.
Yeah, exactly. What if she had decided to go to therapy the day after that wedding that, they left her there? What if she had decided to go to therapy then? Would it have been an eye-opener for her? Maybe. But no.
Maybe back then therapy wasn't a
She
thing.
went through to be able to be where she's at right now. That's why sometimes for me,
And also maybe her brain had not reached the threshold where it registered like
probably.
I need help.
Yeah.
Yeah. But thank God that the brain didn't reach there, because if the brain had reached there, maybe she should not be in the multi-millionaire she is.
Right.
She was a billionaire. BT sold for
billionaire.
2-point-something billion.
Yes, billionaire. Like sometimes you go through stuff that put you in certain places. Yes, is it messed up? Sure, but way messed up. But then again, I cannot think of the fact that if you went through the normal route, the route that we're thinking, a good heart in your chest is not burning, everything is fine, would you have been the billionaire that you are now? No. Would you have been very generous, charitable? Probably not. So not justifying pain, though. Not justifying her pain, but just saying. Just saying. But that Bob, if you're hearing this, you go to hello. You go to hell. You go to hell.
I wonder what he's up to now. Did he marry somebody?
No.
No?
Oh, they didn't. They just ended up together, right? Or something.
No, they're not together.
Then he did all that.
Yes, both of them. Shoot.
They're not together. She came out with her own book talking about he forced her. Like a lot of it was him forcing her.
Oh, please let her own up to her own role in the game. But
Maybe we
she
should
knew
make a book next.
I feel like her name. I feel like her name was so much in this book that I was like, I don't even want to know what she looks like. And then other people send me this, oh, your next recommended read. I'm like, no, thank you. So I heard her name so much, I was like, who is this? But no, I don't want to know. But other people was like, how you should know. Okay.
Deborah Lee.
That's funny. That is funny. All right. Anything
That's
else?
interesting. That's how the story.
Sorry, Manny, what'd you say?
I said I don't want to know her side of the story.
Oh, you know, watching BET, the BET Awards and stuff. That's how her image just flashed to mind, because every time I go Deborah Lee, this,
Yeah.
the image came to mind. No, I read the book, I was like, oh, this woman, this is she got to this place. Oh,
that is how she climbed the ladder.
Yep, she's a career woman. I can't knock her hustle. I cannot knock her hustle. So hey, in this world where most women don't make the same amount as their fellow counterparts. You know what I mean? So I can't knock her hustle. She had to. She seen the loophole and she skedazzled into that job. She took the alley whoop and ran with it. So hey. Anyways, anything else we didn't touch that you guys would like to mention here as we wrap up?
No.
Not that I can think of.
Yeah, me neither.
So,
yeah, it's go read the book for yourself and get heated.
It is a good read,
It's a good read. Trust your instinct.
For us women to know when to throw the towel in, and for men to use some kind of patience, because it's a miracle to see a man that patient.
Yeah.
So we don't get to hear about a lot of that in the media or in the news or whatever. So not to say there aren't more, but it's good that one was pointed out in this book, and I think that more people should read it to know that it may be scarce, but it's out here.
And most of all, if you know your sweetheart is out there somewhere, and you know that that's a sweetheart for you, just keep your career going, and no matter, guys, just be patient. You never know, something might happen.
Or may not happen.
For him to never have been married, that was like, wow.
Like he stayed that way.
Yeah, because I did not think that he would marry her.
Yeah.
I just thought that they would just be together to be together. Because I was like, he's never been married, and is it now that he's going to be? But and then she had a 700 wedding. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I didn't guess. I'm like, you're still on this whole proving point thing, but hey, she had the money, so she could buy the whole world if she wanted.
She was marrying right, so.
All right.
Yeah, so all right. Our next book. I'm not sure if you guys sent the PDF in the chat, if you guys are all good with that one.
Yeah, different twist and turn of things. When I read the title, I was like, wait,
I know, right?
Now
the bait of Satan. That's what it is, right? By John somebody Bevere.
Yeah.
I look forward to it.
That will be interesting.
I said, let's try something different. Go and get into the word. After reading this book, I felt like I needed some mental peace. Like something to calm my brain down, because Bob just made us look very bad. Bob, okay, I'm just saying.
You were running away from Bob to have a bit with Satan, but I love it with Satan.
Right.
Let's see how it goes. It better be better than this one, because my emotions, I literally still have chills when I hear Deborah Lee. I'm like, no, not again.
This book is interesting to see that rich people have us normal people problems too.
There you go.
Yep.
Just with more money, but
pocket. So,
anyway. And instead of crying on the floor in your bedroom, you can go to a ranch, or you can even buy the ranch.
Let me tell you, if
Get away.
I had ranch money, do you know, I had that woman's money, do you know the things I would have done? I'll just go and buy somebody's house. And I have a few people, just go and buy their house. Go to their mortgage lender and buy their house out.
Oh.
That's it. Lord, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that before you don't give me money. That was just the old me. But, that was my intrusive thought. I wouldn't do that.
Petty shit, man. Just buy it, and the minute they don't pay, they miss one payment, you foreclose it.
Yup.
Oh,
Foreclosure.
boy. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
But at the end of the day, like we said, you could buy the whole boy and put a band-aid on the emotional issue. You still have to come back and deal with the emotional issue.
It's okay.
no
I'll
problem.
buy the house,
In my
foreclose the house in the morning and see my therapist in the afternoon.
I don't know.
Balance.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm about to take that money and buy me a couple yachts and just stay in somewhere in the water, for people for a good, and invite all the therapists that I need there so they can help me. And then I come back to land. I don't know what you're talking about. But to that thing that you mentioned, that rich people committing suicide, I can never feel bad.
Wow.
Never feel.
Why not?
I can never feel.
I mean, that just goes to say all the money in the world cannot solve your emotional problems.
But you can go and pay for a therapist to
Yeah.
navigate your way through it.
Sometimes it's deeper than anything that a therapist can do or can help.
Yeah.
Because depression is a funny thing. It's a funny thing to understand, to navigate. If you can handle it before it gets too deep, good. But once it gets too deep, it's a hard place to be in.
Yeah. The worst part is not even knowing that you are depressed.
Yeah.
And if you don't have people around you who can say, this is not who you are, or something is different, it makes it even worse.
Yeah. That's true. But anyways, man, I think it's getting later in the day. If there's nothing else, what I mean, appreciate you guys. We have our next read, The Bait of Satan. This kind of calm our nerves from this other book that we just read, and hopefully we'll get most of the other crew back too as well. But yeah, if there are no other thoughts, comments, or questions, then we could call it. Thank you all for watching. I'm here with Mane, Nelly, Therese, Uncle AK. We are the book club. We don't have a name, but I just said the book club was stuck in the
I
middle.
was waiting. I thought that was gonna be a spontaneous name. I was like,
I don't have.
then we are the book club.
I don't have name.
The book club of what? Bonakanda.
The book club review on Stuck in the Middle with in collaboration with Palm White Central Podcast. Leave comments, questions, thoughts if you've read this book or if you're going to read it. Come back and share your own thoughts. Let us know what you think. We'll gladly appreciate it. Catch you next time. We out. Deuce.